Hello and welcome to a super cozy autumnal vlog. My name is Emily, I'm an artist and jewellery maker. Welcome back to my channel. This is my spicy paprika lentil soup. It is a delightful, warming recipe that I use. Even my partner, who isn't veggie, absolutely loves it, and it is a great thing to have cooking while I do some work. I've been really focusing on some book earrings at the minute, and I am a big book lover myself, so I thought it was about time to make some books that you can wear in your ears. And these are all based on the collections that I do, from Stargazer Lilium to the Strawberries, etc, etc. It did take a while, but I think they were so effective and I'm so thrilled with how they turned out. And they will be linked below if you fancy having a nosy. On the topic of books, I've been fully invested in my reading journal this year. I have one journal where I have the book covers and the star rating, and I have another more creative book journal where I delve into my washi tape and stickers while discussing book series that I'm really into, or ticking off classics that I have read or want to read. I do not need an excuse to talk about books, so if you'd be interested in a book journal video, do let me know. But as we are in the UK, we did try to get within nature as much as possible, especially when the weather was best. So it was relatively spontaneous. It was more a case of, it's not raining, let's get out. I did also do a spot of baking, which I don't get to do very often because I am not the best in terms of energy. So to bake cakes and stuff, as much as I enjoy it, they do take a lot of energy. But my partner had a very taxing week, so I thought I would cheer him up with one of his favourite things in the world, which is cake and sweet things. So it was an autumn spiced loaf cake with a crumble topping. If you have followed my channel for about a year, you will have seen that I've been working on this still life piece for quite a while. It's more because I have been doing a lot of things in between, like the polymer clay makes I make for my jewellery business and whatnot. So painting this is more of like a hobby activity. So when my workload gets particularly higher, this does get somewhat neglected, but I did also try to prioritise it when the workload was slightly less, so I definitely picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down, and so on. But I wanted to get it finished by the end of the year, so I was very much aware that the months were clocking on and I wanted to get it done. So even if it was just an hour or two at the end of the afternoon when my workload had quietened down, or I'd done enough work that I felt like I could justify getting my paints out and having a little play. But it is important to also have a work-life balance, and I was very aware that I needed to have that sort of respite from work art and also pick up the hobby art as well. Also, such is life with chronic illness, I was also quite poorly within those weeks as well. I had to spend quite a bit of time in bed because of that, because I just was in so much pain. I also had a pretty nasty cold, but because of my lymph nodes and my lymphatic system being particularly sensitive, or dramatic as I like to say, it made my other symptoms 10 times worse. I was extremely fatigued. I felt absolutely rubbish. So I picked up some crochet because I can do that from bed with an audiobook and recover and rest. But behind the scenes as well, I was quite anxious. I had quite a lot of grief that came from feeling unwell and missing what my body used to be able to do, and felt quite sad about it all, so I thought when I did feel a little bit better, I would channel some of that energy into some joyful creative endeavours. And if you've seen my recent art haul, you would have seen I picked up some crayons, and I wanted to channel some inner child joy and thought, right, let's just have a good play. So I had these Pinterest pictures of sort of patchwork blankets, and I thought I wanted to do something with a limited colour palette, like a dark pink, a light pink, a dark blue, a light blue, and a dark green and a light green. And I wanted to create sort of like checkerboard patchwork prints, sort of like the impression of an Argyle jumper or a blanket, and it's all very cottagecore and beautiful. And that was my inspiration behind it all. So I thought, as I had some lovely comments on that haul that people wanted to see the crayon play, I thought I would film that for you, because I think with that as well, it helped me kind of get out of bed and get out of my dark headspace. There was a lot going on behind the scenes emotionally, and doing this gave me a bit of a purpose. And because I struggled to justify doing things for joy for myself, I thought, well, I could do it for other people, and that gives me the incentive of it's not for me, it's for someone else. And if you have low self-esteem and low self-confidence, then you know full well that you feel like you don't deserve that joy. But with having some excellent therapy this year, I know I do deserve that joy, and I think logically speaking I understand that, but putting that into practice is the difficult bit. And I can do it, and I will do it, and it does get easier the more I do it, but then sometimes I do take a couple of back steps within that healing journey. And I'm sure a lot of creatives are quite sensitive souls. I know I have a lot of sensitivities to a lot of different things, and I think with being bullied and having low self-esteem, it makes you question, and then the doubts creep in. And I think the best perspective that I was given was when my therapist told me that the hurtful things that I'm saying to myself, what would happen if someone said that to someone that I loved, like my twin sister or like my partner, and she could see the palpable rage that filled me at the thought of someone doing that to my loved ones. And then her saying, well, you're doing that to yourself. Why is that any better? And how do you think they would feel knowing that someone's doing that to you, but that someone's actually you? And it gave me that sort of distance, gave me that perspective of, oh, maybe what I'm saying doesn't have validity, and maybe it's the trauma that's speaking. But an exercise my therapist gave to me is when those thoughts creep in, give yourself reasons to prove that those things exist and that they are very real and that there is validity to those feelings. But then to balance that, write things of why that could be false or that it's not real. And it helps you have that perspective of, just because one thing can be true to one fact doesn't mean that there isn't a counter argument for the very same fact. I do this in my therapy journal, and I do find it exceptionally useful. But let's have a bit of a sparkle palette cleanser, because that was quite a heavy discussion. So this is the background to my Venus Flytrap collection. And there are some new shapes and maybe some familiar ones that aren't yet available again. So keep your eyes peeled. But if that sparkly palette cleanser was not enough, I think a Gwenny pig will suffice. This is my little guinea pig, who is the sassiest little spud. She definitely looks quite calm and sweet. She's very nosy, very sassy, has a pair of lungs on her, and this is her favourite spot. She likes to sit either on my chest or like a parrot on my shoulder, and she's very chatty and will just sit there and cluck away. In all seriousness, I don't think I would have coped with the anxiety and stressies without my little guinea pigs, and look at that little face. During my pain flare-up, I was definitely having more baths because it definitely helps my pelvic pain and spinal pain. So with that, I was inspired because I get inspiration everywhere. And I thought while I was in bed feeling a little bit rubbish, I would design a tarot card of self-care, because I think if I saw this in my tarot card spread, I would think, right, I need some self-care, I need to prioritise myself and some joy and some relaxation. And I wanted it to be really bright and vibrant and happy, so that then it would in turn cheer me up. And it did just that. And it is now available on my shop in case you need to have your future with a bit of self-care. I've definitely been working on some makes for the markets as well, which was a theme throughout, I think, most of October. And I was going to start making some necklaces because the last markets that I did, they were very popular. If you have seen my other vlogs, you would have seen that I am working towards finishing this sketchbook before I'm 30. I am 30 in January and I would like to get it finished. If not, I'm not overly precious about the timeline, because just the fact that I filled this many pages makes me happy that I have found a process that I find constructive, and it means that I can keep that up. And the habit of sketchbooking is definitely becoming part of my routine, which is all that I wanted. So I'm not too fussed if I get it completed, but it'd be nice if I could say, tick, done it before I'm 30. Because I saw this picture of gingham on gingham on gingham, and it was actually a load of bakes that were done checkerboard on a gingham tablecloth with a gingham curtain. And as a gingham lover myself, I feel like it spoke to parts of my soul that needed to be awakened, and it definitely inspired me, so I wanted to paint it. I wanted to use a lot of different materials, so here I am using some watercolours. So the tablecloth was done out of watercolours, and then over the top I used pan pastels that all featured in my latest art haul. The checkerboard behind the table display, I suppose, was done out of gouache, and then the actual cakes and other parts of the display were done out of acrylic paints, pencil crayons. It was a full mixed media explosion, and I was so happy with how it turned out. I will show you a finished picture in a moment, but it was just something I could really focus on, that, again, hobby-based, very important, very healing. And I wanted to also potentially scan that in, see if I can turn it into a print. And I have a few sketchbook prints already listed on my shop. It's something I've wanted to do for ages, and it was part of the sort of motivation to get this sketchbook completed and finished, so I can scan some of my favourite artworks in and potentially sell them as sketchbook prints, as little sketchbook bundles. I'm thinking ones with cohesive colour stories, so the one that I've got currently is all very yellow based, inspired by sunflowers and oranges, that sort of colour scheme. And then I'm thinking one of doing green, because I've got a few green prints, and then blue, and so on and so forth. I will pop the ones that I've already got available link below. sometimes my ideas can be a little bit silly. Oftentimes my ideas can be rather weird, and I think this merges them both. I had an idea of pigeon earrings, and I started off thinking, let's see if it works. More than anything, it was an experiment. And then I thought, hang on a minute, pigeons have iridescent feathers. Let's get the mica powder out. I then took it a step further and got the glitter out. And then soon enough, these little pigeons became the sassiest, sparkliest, prettiest pigeons you ever did see. And I used a mix of different colours, so I had a blue iridescent mica powder, and then I have like scrap glitter in this little tub, and it's all the glitters I have that are excess from the bag, all merged into one. So I think it's probably my favourite glitter. Why choose when you can have all of them? And this is what it turned out to be. Aren't they adorable? I also have a necklace available in the same style, and I will link them below with everything else. Now, my slow cooker this autumnal season has been used within an inch of its life, so I've decided to show you my recipe for slow cooker jacket spuds. I say it's my recipe. My sister gave me the instructions. I did it accordingly. So I stabbed the potato and used a mix of my oil and spices and seasoning, drizzle that over the top, and as it has the stabby holes, I can then have that infused within the potato. I then wrap it up in a little foil blanket, pop them in the slow cooker for about 5.5 hours, depending on the size of the potatoes. If they are large potatoes, I cut them in half. And now the big potato-y reveal. Ta-da! Now this was only my second experiment. I am tempted next to experiment with them popping them in the air fryer for about 10-15 minutes to crisp up the skin. But that is my slow cooked potatoes. Dead easy. As someone who has limited mobility, limited energy, and definitely struggles day to day with tasks such as cooking, it's so easy to make. It's a very wholesome tea. We tend to do it with a curry sort of mix, and it's so tasty. One might say perfect fuel for market prep. So this is the first market I've probably done in about 3 years. I have not been well enough to do them, and especially when the weather's cold for Christmas markets, it just wasn't feasible with my chronic pain to be able to do them. I had to defrost afterwards, and it took a very long time, and then my pain and energy afterwards was then profoundly affected. But since being put on a new medication that helps me sleep better, I can recover from bigger tasks like that. And so long as I have enough time to bank some energy and then afterwards to rest to regain some energy, I am trying to experiment with doing a little bit more like this because it gets my name out there locally. And there is no greater feeling than when people come up to you and see your artwork in person and getting their reaction, getting to speak to customers face to face. There is no greater feeling like it, and my partner really enjoys doing them as well. For him, it's seeing what I make at home and then getting people's reactions in person. He said it was strange when one person that he worked with was wearing earrings that I'd made. He was like, I've seen those on your workstation. And then to see them in the flesh on people, he said it was lovely to see like the full circle of from lumps of clay to earrings. And he's my biggest supporter, my biggest cheerleader. I'm so lucky to have him and my family who keep me going, and when the imposter syndrome feeds into my self-confidence and makes me feel like I want to give up and that I can't do it, they keep me going and encourage me to carry on because they know realistically how hard I work and how much energy and effort I put into this, especially as I am limited on that energy front, but I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And just a moment of appreciation to my gorgeous family and glorious partner who I wouldn't be here without. I was rather proud of myself that despite the fact I haven't done a market for 3 years, I still managed to pack everything and didn't forget anything. I set it up without any complications or errors, and just a moment of self-acknowledgement that I did a good job, and I was very proud of myself for that. And everything looked great. We bought these little hooks that were yellow that went with my whole aesthetic and business branding and whatnot, so I was really happy with how everything looked. Everyone was so kind, and I feel a little bit weepy at the thought of how lovely people were, and yeah, very lovely. that's the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video or like me, please subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here and join me on all of my arty endeavours. The classic art favourites video should be coming up very soon. I have been using so many art supplies this year because I've been just doing so many different projects. And when you have a multitude of different hobbies, lots of art supplies get used, and there's some eclectic favourites, let's put it that way. If you have made it this far amongst my ramblings, thank you so, so much. You don't know how much I appreciate it. I am so grateful. As for links, everything that I've mentioned is linked below, from the earrings that I have featured in this video that I said I would link. They will be linked below, along with all of my socials, Instagram, Goodreads, because you know me, love me a book, and if you fancy seeing what I'm reading, then that's on there as well. My personal Instagram, where there's a lot of piggy content and some charity shop finds, because if I'm not doing artwork or doing anything creative and crocheting, I am in charity shops looking at all the gorgeous thrift finds. So please stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!